We are speaking with the Manager of Marketing, Business Development and Communications at the CDC, Gabriella Gonzales. And thank you so much for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you for having me this evening.
No, we spoke with the chairperson, Mrs. Rawlins, and she gave us an overview where the company is at, the state of the cocoa industry. But we want to dive a little more into specifics in this conversation. So some of the specifics of the CDC for the fiscal year 2020-2021, please.
Well, I would have to say we look at specific operational activities from two standpoints. One is production and quality, and the other would be marketing, business development, and those things. From a production and quality standpoint, as our chairman would have identified, boosting national production is very critical for us. So in order to do that, we're looking to rehabilitate about 200 hectares of land and cocoa to improve productivity, and then so that we could get higher yields, which would obviously give us more output. And then we also want to have a lot of new planting happening, because that is also important, that you have trees going forward, younger trees. Additionally, we want to further develop our quality and traceability systems using more technology, and we also have within there, we also have to do some auditing of the processors, the primary processors of cocoa. We also will continue our general work that we do, which is heavy on the technical side, where we promote adoption of best practices for things like critical areas of cocoa, things like harvesting, fermentation, drying, and especially storage. Storage is becoming much more of a big deal. Especially as you have a crop which has two distinct seasons throughout the year. So there comes a point when you actually have to store beans. And we're also looking to expand our total quality management system to include not just primary inputs, but also value-added products. So that's on the production side. And then on the marketing and business development side, we have about 5 key areas. I'll run through them quickly. In the first place, when we talk about marketing as well, for us it's marketing arrangements. So it also involves identifying new markets and working really to ensure that the products produced from Trinidad conform to the specifications of the market, as well as adhere to international quality standards. We're also in the midst of the evolution of our 40 True Trinidad and Tobago Trinitario brand. So we're working on developing more of the brand credential for those, because this would be the vehicle for us to generate a lot of demand for like the value-added sector. So this would be the umbrella brand for Trinidad products, both from beans to value-added to whatever is cocoa derived from Trinidad. And we also, in doing so, have recognized that we need some innovation and some product development work happening at a very high level. And for this, we recognize that this is something that involves working with a lot of our strategic partners, particularly the Cocoa Research Center, who we're actually going to be having our industry committee with very soon. We're also definitely working on building capacity in the value-add sector, because we see that the sector is growing. We're trying to professionalize the sector as well as expand the portfolio of products, because we do some training towards persons in that sector, but we want to also expand the things we're training persons on. We've trained on cocoa wines, cocoa spa products, cocoa beverages, but I mean that's not the whole gamut of what is out there in cocoa, and we want to make sure people have access at least to the starting point training so that they could decide if they want to continue. And then for us personally, we recognize that as a company, and based on a lot of the queries we get from the public, we definitely need to ensure that as a company we cement ourselves and are properly recognized as a hub for the cocoa sector, so that anyone looking for research information, market information, and those things will come in. We're building the market intelligence and the systems for that. And in the coming year, we're hoping to start digitizing a lot of these activities towards becoming a hub and ensuring that all our systems are more in line with technology that's accessible to everyone.
In terms of building that capacity, though, how do you determine how it happens in terms of training, or saying, okay, well, this is the group of people that we want to work with, initial producers, or moving forward? Take me through that process.
Remember, we are a company that represents all different groups and stakeholders along the value chain. So, and remember, there are basic goals where the country is moving towards, one of them critically being quality. So what we assess is, we look at persons, yes, in different groups, and assess what are the needs of each group. So for example, for existing value-add producers, you would find that these are people who we want to ensure that they all reach a similar quality standard. In order to do that, we would have been and started working with the Cocoa Research Center to ensure that that particular group is addressed in that way. For persons who are looking to getting involved in value-add training or developing value-add products, so those would be people who are new to the sector, as well as farmers who do primary inputs who are looking to upgrade and access higher margin products like the nibs, the cocoa butters, those sorts of things. What we do for those types of people is at times we have in-house training very specific to the farmers, but by and large we also go out to communities, because what we have recognized is we're also trying to create a sustainable sector. So one of the things that we need is to involve youths and involve the women and involve entire communities. So we've actually done a lot of trainings outside at community centers, so far in cocoa growing areas. So we would have done trainings in Tamina, in Grand Couva, in Rio Claro. I believe we had done one, actually we did a training in Tobago, and we sent our Cocoa Spa trainer actually up to Grand River because they had a group up there. So those are the ways where you at least bring a lot of persons into taking cocoa forward, and that the families and persons in the community of farmers could see where they could actually play a role in the sector and have viable entrepreneurship opportunities. We also, for the value-added persons, again, the same ones who are already in the sector, the 80 more so persons, what we have recognized sometimes is we do things that are needs-based, that we see when needs arise with them. One of the needs that they very often have is because this is like an embryonic sector. It's growing, but at the same time, a lot of these people don't have full mainstream distribution of their products on supermarket shelves, etc. So you'd find they're very reliant on major events. Things like you would find we would have sponsored entire groups of them to sell at the Diwali Nagar. We would have had a cocoa tent at the Carnival Village. So we even had, I believe we had a trial opportunity also at the cruise ship port for quite a while. So we create opportunities for these persons to have selling opportunities and give them that level of access. And then we recognize sometimes when we're looking at and getting feedback from outside that maybe, they need some improvement in different ways. So for example, we had recognized that branding and packaging was something that was very important, and we actually held a training here so that persons could understand these simple principles and improve those things, because that's part of the professionalism, and it's a critical step also for developing global standard products, as opposed to things that could just be easily put together for the local shelf. But a lot of people have to think bigger and be more forward-looking with what they're attempting to do, and this is what we try to create. So we're trying to create a system where we're going from new persons somewhere in the middle, and persons on the cusp of exporting to basically move them through.
And I appreciate the fact that you spoke about having or going into the communities and dealing with the communities, because I see the potential for someone in a cocoa family saying, okay, well, I've seen my parents do this, I've seen my aunts do this for a while, but I want to do something a little different. Yeah. But at the same time, there's a potential for you to be doing something a little different, but you're still involved, but just a different aspect of it. And I hear you're speaking about the increasing the value chain, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, we have beans and that's all we do. Yeah. How far can you take that? What else can you use these things for?
As I said before, there's like a whole gamut of things that are not currently made in Trinidad and Tobago. We do basic essentially persons, like, let's start with the primary product. So let's say the actual cocoa itself. You could actually make products from the husk. I think you can make like animal feeds, fertilizers, etc., just from the husks alone. Here we discard also a lot of the shells. The shells of the beans can be used as products as well in beverages for teas and different things. I think a few of the farmers here are now commercializing those. We also, because of our focus in the past, I would say, on bean export, we kind of, I think we've sort of used the cocoa pulp itself as waste, whereas cocoa pulp itself can be made into a beverage, it could be frozen, it could be made into other things, and those things have been explored by some other countries, and we've noticed that those products exist, but they're not exactly here. So there's different areas where persons should get into actual cocoa product development. Yes, cocoa product development.
But thank you so much. We are actually going to take a short break. We're speaking with Gabriella Gonzales, Manager of Marketing, Business Development and Communication at the Cocoa Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited. We return with more. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are speaking with Gabriella Gonzales of the Cocoa Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited. And lovely conversation. I want to know, though, what are some of the ways that private persons can access this sector?
Essentially, anyone who is very business-minded or has the will to succeed and the desire, very welcome to the cocoa sector. In order to access things, what we generally recommend would be public-private partnerships, as well as maybe joint ventures. The joint ventures are really important, particularly when you want to develop large-scale production of new innovative products, things like nutraceuticals, things like very, very high-end inputs. That's when you may need a joint venture. In addition to that, you have a lot of different opportunities at things. I think people don't understand that cocoa is related to many, many things. So you have the opportunities to enter cocoa through, for example, agrotourism, agroforestry. You can use opportunities in developing cocoa culinary. We have a bit of a cocoa culinary scene already happening, but there's ways that this could be even more deeply explored. You also could look at things such as fashion, tourism, but I also encourage people, the first thing you really should do is get some information. A lot of the information is available here, as well as do your own research online and figure out what is the best avenue for you. Two, if you want to get into primary production in particular, you really should have some way to access land. And then when you find this way to access the land, then you come to us and say, okay, I want to understand the business models that I could then pursue. This is where we could significantly assist, because we would have developed a lot of the cost of production for these types of things, things from primary production to a few of the value-added items. And then you also can, apart from going there, then when you want to actually establish an estate or rehabilitate like an abandoned estate that you may have purchased, this is where you also call in CDC, because we would have the technical expertise for establishment, train you on the agronomy. We could assist with actually training a labor pool, and then working with you throughout the season to ensure you learn all the basics and the high quality standards for each part, the processing, etc. I would always encourage persons who are brand new and just feel like, I want to make a product, definitely explore, look also at ways of maybe funding and finding funds, because I think most critically for entrepreneurs and people trying to get into industry, the challenge may always be funding.
And on that note, I think there's also a connector loan that is possible.
Yeah. So, well, there's quite a few things possible. So if you are an existing farmer looking to upgrade, there are incentives from the Ministry of Agriculture, etc. If you actually already have an existing business as well, you would be able to access grants and loans from the Ministry of Trade through Export TT. We have, for new persons and existing persons in the cocoa sector, there's a quick access microloan, which was recently launched. It's a strategic collaboration between us, CDC, and the Agricultural Development Bank. It is for all the things up the cocoa value chain. So it's not just for primary processing. It's actually for persons who want, new persons who have a product in mind and they want to get into things related to cocoa. It's for infrastructure on estates. It's for rehabilitation. It is also for improving existing things. So there's a lot of scope inside it. The loan, I believe, is to an amount of $25,000 with a payback period over 4 years, and persons could always contact us, because our role, particularly with that loan, is we have technical oversight for the loan, and most of the persons who want to access it would have to have referrals from us. So if you want to get into a product, or if you even want to work in, I've recognized too, we have a lot of needs across the value chain for like value-based services. So people who want to do things like transport, distribution, merchandising, assistance with those things, or even setting up pure retail opportunities. We have, within cocoa, there are support services for existing businesses, which can then also create businesses. So there's opportunities, and I mean, we're open to calls, you know.
One of the things that I really appreciate, because I've heard it from both you and the chair, is that you all act as a hub. You're creator. You're working towards creating an enabling environment. I hear the words support, facilitate. So is it that someone is saying, okay, well, I wonder if somebody needs help transporting beans. Can they contact you to get some of that information? And on that note, you'll also give me a contact information.
Yes, I mean, they definitely can contact us, because in the first place, it starts with a phone call or an email. Reach out to us, depending on, we'll give you the feedback, because a lot of our role, you see, the thing is, we see the entire value chain. So one of the things we can do is provide all the different linkages. And because we are aware of exactly what is going on in the industry, because we have forecasted for the whole industry, we have a sense of what is going on where, and we see where the gaps are. I mean, there are things we ourselves would love to assist with doing, but obviously, I mean, we can't. It might be outside of our mandate. So definitely we could sort of channel persons into what are good opportunity areas, and then they make their decisions. We assist them to understand some of the costings involved, so that they have a sense of what they're getting into, and you know, they take it from there, because I mean, largely that is still private sector, so they have to make the decision. In order to contact us, ideally via email, you could use our general email box, which is info@cdcttl.co.tt, or you could call us at the office on our main line, 671-1001.
No, we just have less than a minute more. No, but in that though, we've just come off of Global Entrepreneurship Week. What are some of those opportunities? I don't know whether or not to call them low-hanging fruit, but where do you see those points of access for people who want to
immediately do a cocoa startup? To immediately do a cocoa startup, I would say the quickest way to get into the sector would probably be on the value-added side. The reason I say that is because with primary production, it takes a lot of capital and it takes a lot of time, because you're dealing with a tree crop. But if you're really in, I want to see a quick return, you may want to start making like a value-added product, because it's something you could start small with. You don't need an incredible amount of infrastructure depending on the product. Right? And so I would say do there. If you're really interested in higher returns, and you have more significant funds, I would say go with the primary production, because even though the thing about the joy of a tree crop is that, yes, you're going to get back, you're going to recover your investment within 5 years, right? But you're going to recover it at like a 15% rate of return on selling of wet beans alone. And then you also have to understand that a cocoa tree, the lifespan of it is almost as much as 60 years. You could get productivity. So you have something that could stand indefinitely. And then from that, you make a decision. You could then go into making value add. You could go into single estate branding. You could go into primary products. So there's a lot of ways to do this.
Definitely, this is one of the reasons I like to have conversations with the CDC. Thank you so much, Gabriella Gonzales, for the time And we want to thank you for tuning in. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm DK Roster. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.